Hey, hi everyone. We're still letting some people in. Just to let you know, we will have the chat function going throughout. So if you have any questions or any difficulty hearing or seeing anything, please let us know in the chat. Misty Witt will be monitoring that throughout the presentation. All right. Okay, let's get started. So good afternoon. Today's training topic is community eligibility provision, submitting the CEP elections. All right. So today's training will cover current guidance and background information, CEP notification requirements, CNP CEP worksheet and calculator feature, submitting the elections, and then other CEP considerations. So as we covered in our population training, USDA has updated guidance this year. So the large manual, the planning and implementation guidance updated, that still has a highlighted version so you can see all of the changes linked here. And then also Q&As talking about the new minimum identified student percentage, which it went from 40% to 25%. And then also about the annual notification, publication, and election deadlines. All right, which was released in February of 2024. So start with, what is CEP? So it's a program established by the Healthy Hunger Free Act that allows students to receive free meals under the SBP and NSLP. While the program operates on a 4-year cycle, schools may opt in or opt out each year. As an alternative to household applications for free and reduced price meals, CEP schools cannot process meal applications. And so it's either CEP with a direct certification or processing applications. You cannot do both at the same site. All right. So criteria to participate. So prior to approval for CEP, school food authorities must agree to serve all children free breakfast and lunches. 2, cover costs above reimbursement amounts with non-federal funds. 3, not collect or process meal applications. 4, SFAs by individual site or clusters of site must have an enrollment with at least 25% of the students considered identified students to participate in CEP. Your data point must be as of April 1st of the school year prior to participation. So April 1st, 2024 for the school year 24-25. And residential childcare institutions are not eligible to participate in CEP. So what are non-federal funds? So school food authorities must use non-federal funding sources to cover operational costs when the federal reimbursement received under CEP is less than the cost of providing no-cost meals to all students. Non-federal funding sources include, but are not limited to, any portion of the state revenue matching funds that exceeds the minimum requirement established in 7 CFR Part 210.17, profits from a la carte sales, cash donations, and in-kind contribution funds from outside sources such as volunteer services. All right, so determining school eligibility. During the process of determining school eligibility, the term identified students refers to students who are directly certified for free school meals based on their participation or a household member's participation in other means-tested assistance programs, such as SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, or the Food Distribution Program on Indian Reservations, or Medicaid Free. Identified students are also children who are categorically eligible for free school meals without an application and who are not subject to verification, including homeless, runaway, and migrant children, children enrolled in a federally funded Head Start program or comparable state-funded Head Start or pre-kindergarten program, foster children certified through means other than a household application. Please note that children must be considered eligible for one of these categories between the start of the school year and April 1st. That's the file that comes out in April with March data. All right. So again, all children that fall into these categories listed below are what we refer to as identified students. A few quick points for school food authorities in determining school eligibility are students in the same household with directly certified students can be counted as identified students. The SFA are not able to use information from free and reduced applications to identify students. If an identified student percentage of at least 62.5% is determined, then all meals are reimbursed at a free rate, while if the identified student percentage falls between 25 and 62.5%, then meals will be reimbursed at a combination of both free and paid rates. So while the children will eat for free, the reimbursement is dependent on your identified student percentage. Okay. So determining school eligibility. So this is the formula that SFA should use to determine the identified student percentage. You'll divide the number of identified students as of April 1st by the number of enrolled students as of April 1st, and then multiply by 100. This was done by our population table, and that information is available on our CNP elections. And so you don't actually have to do this math. But just an example, you have 550 identified students with a total enrollment of 700 students. To find the identified student percentage, you will divide the 550 identified students by the enrollment of 700, which equals 0.7857. You multiply by 100 to calculate the ISP of 78.57%, which meets the threshold. The second example shows 135 identified students with a total enrollment of 700 students. Again, you would divide the 135 identified students by the 700 enrollment, which rounds to 0.1929. You multiply that by 100 to calculate the ISP of 19.29%. Please remember that the ISP must be at least 25% to be eligible. Therefore, this example of 19.29% does not meet the threshold. All right. So CEP multiplier. So why is it 62.5% or more is reimbursed at 100% free rate? That's because the USDA determined that for every student that's identified, that 0.6 more students would be identified if forms were filled out. So in order to determine your claiming percentage, so the rate at which you're reimbursed, the ISP is multiplied by 1.6, which equals the percentage of meals claimed at the free rate. The remaining meals served up to 100% are reimbursed at the paid rate. So in example 1, we'll use the ISP from the previous slide. 78.57% multiplied by the CEP multiplier of 1.6 equals a claiming percentage of 125%, which is just 100% claimed as free. In another example, if the ISP was 46.85%, then your claiming percentage would be 74.96%. So the free claiming percentage would be 74.96%, and the paid claiming percentage would be 25.04%. Notification requirements. The requirements for CEP elections are as follows. So the CEP elections will begin on June 3rd, 2024, since June 1st is on a Saturday. All CEP elections must be made by June 30th annually. And then this year, all CEP elections will be completed on the Child Nutrition Program website. So this is our website where you are able to submit your claims, your Schedule A's, everything. It is going to be in our website, the legacy system. We are still working with eScholar, and so it'll be a system that you're more familiar with on the CNP website. All right. So we want to reiterate that the elections will be done on the CNP website this year. So on this slide, you'll find a listing of the CEP deadline dates. The population data was due in eScholar on CEP Manager by April 15th. I want to thank everyone for submitting that in a timely fashion. Thank you so much. So all the population data has automatically been pulled from the eScholar Direct Match system into the CNP website. It's important to note that all SFAs must make final elections regarding CEP participation for the 2024-2025 school year through the CNP system by June 30th. All right, so now let's dig into the CEP worksheet and calculator feature. So since your population is correct and submitted, you are ready to submit the CEP worksheet. So all data that was entered into the population tab in eScholar will auto-populate into the CEP worksheet. You must have submitted the initial CEP population data by April 15th. We're still in the process of building enhancements to elections in eScholar, and we'll be utilizing the CNP website until those enhancements are complete. All right. So a page all of you are familiar with. So the CNP Division of Nutrition Support website. You're going to select the CEP participation on the left-hand side under the School Food Service tab. Right. So this form contains pre-populated data from the population tab in eScholar. So first column will have your school names. Second, we'll have what you elected last year. And so that base year shows there. So for some people, it would be 2024. Others, it would be 23, 22. And then under SY 2025 elections, that base year is going to be 2025. And so that is your new population data from what you submitted by April 15th this year. All right. Okay. So the base year is the first year of the 4-year CEP cycle. If the SFA reestablished, the base year will be the date of reestablishment. For example, a base year of 2024 means school year 23-24 was the first year of the 4-year cycle, whereas a base year of 2025 means school year 24-25 will be the first year of the 4-year cycle. All right. And so if you see on the right-hand side, under elections, there is a drop down where you can select if a school is participating or if you would like to add them to a cluster. And we're going to deep dive into all the options now. All right. So if you select the same CEP cluster as the prior year, you will have the option to continue existing base year. So continue with your original numbers, the ones that you used this past year, or elect school year 2025 base year. So reestablish using this year's population numbers. Okay. So you'll see that under previous election, all sites were in cluster 1. Under election, all sites are in cluster 1. And so it gives you the option of continuing the existing base year or electing a new base year. As you go back and forth between those two options, it'll change the numbers so you know which ones you are electing. So please pay close attention to the continue current base year and renew base year selections. If your current school year ISP has increased from your ISP of the prior year, or you are above 62.5%, you want to consider reestablishing or selecting the elect school year 2025 base year. Note that if you do not select the same CEP clusters as the prior year, you will only have the option to elect a new base year. So in this example, previous year, all schools were in one cluster, but if you decide that you want to break it apart into two clusters for the first time, then you would have to elect a new base year. This goes by individual cluster. So if you are an SFA that has, say, 3 or 4 clusters, as long as all the cluster 1 sites are clustered together again, then you would be able to choose whether to continue or elect, even if you make changes to cluster 2 or cluster 3. All right. So on the CEP worksheet, you see at the top right-hand corner, district-wide question mark. So this is especially for those SFAs that have a large number of sites. You click district-wide and it will select all eligible sites to participate in one cluster. So if you are electing CEP for all CEP eligible sites, you can check the district-wide button and all sites will be clustered together. All right. Note that in order to be eligible for CEP, your site does have to offer breakfast and lunch. So if you will newly be offering both breakfast and lunch, please contact us. You'll have a little warning that says the sponsor has sites that don't qualify for CEP. That would be because you're not participating in either breakfast or lunch, and we can make it so that you would be able to elect those programs. So on the CEP worksheet, once you select your elections, so whether it's district-wide or your clusters, and you do your election decisions, the bottom of the left-hand corner of the page, it'll say Save Worksheet and Continue. So once you have made the election decisions, you must select Save Worksheet and Continue to advance to the review page. Right. So this is an example of the review page. So it shows everything that you elected on the previous page. So once CEP determinations are made for each site, you must certify the information is correct by checking the box next to the certification statement. So you're saying that you certify the information shown above is correct, and if participating will be used as CEP data if applicable. After checking the certification box, you click Submit. All right. So after you submit, once you it'll show a review page and it'll state who certified the information for your school food authority. If any adjustments need to be made after you certify, contact us and we can reopen it for you to make adjustments, but everything has to be finalized by June 30th. All right. So the initial CEP population data submission was due by April 15th, 2023. The final CEP elections data submission must be done by June 30th, 2024. Please note that June 30th is a Sunday, so we highly encourage you to submit before June 30th. You will not be able to submit on the following Monday, July 1st. There will be no exceptions to the June 30th deadline. Right. So that is the CEP calculator, which once again, that will be available on Monday, June 3rd. All right. So now we'll talk about a useful tool that we have built into our website. So the calculator feature allows the school food authority to try different CEP scenarios without affecting the CEP worksheet. This should prevent accidental submissions of the CEP worksheet. So under CEP participation, you click on calculator. All right. The scenarios in the calculator tool allow you to experiment with different combinations of CEP participation to discover which grouping would work best for your school food authority. Right. To begin, click on Add Scenario. So it will auto-populate with a list of all schools that are active in your Schedule A. So you click on the name of the school to select for your population data calculator. Once the name of the school has been clicked, it'll turn blue and can be added to your calculations. All right. So clicking schools 1, 2, and 3 have turned them blue and added them to the calculations. Then you will enter the identified and enrolled students. Then you'll select the cluster ID for those schools. Right. So repeat for each school being entered into the calculator. You have to put in the ID and the enroll and then select which cluster. Right. So the screenshot on the slide shows you where the individual school's ISP, cluster ISP total, and the cluster ISP claiming percentage will populate. In scenario 1, with all schools put into one cluster, school 3 brings the total ISP down to 24.25% with a claiming percentage of 38.80%. In scenario 2, we remove school 3 from CEP using the same population data for schools 1 and 2 from scenario 1. We find that we can reach 100% claiming percentage. So this calculator feature gives you an opportunity to look at different options in terms of clustering if you do not plan on doing district-wide. Right. In scenario 3, we enter prospective new schools data to see if it would make sense to bring them onto our program. So this would be for like a site shift. It gives you the opportunity to see how it would affect your SFA's ISP. In this case, we would still maintain 100% claiming. Right. In scenario 4, with a high ISP prospective new school, we could reach a 71.13% claiming percentage if we participated system-wide. So this is just one option of a tool that you can use to determine kind of how you would like to do your clusters. It's not required that you use this tool. It's just a resource if you would like to look at different scenarios. All right. So and the question, so clustering is mainly for SFAs that are not CEP district-wide. That is correct. So the ones that are district-wide, all sites would be cluster 1. For those that where they either would like to divide up all of their schools into different clusters, or if some schools are participating and some are not, that's where clustering is used. Thank you for that question, Cody. All right. So other CEP considerations. When to establish a new year 1. So the CEP reimbursement rate corresponds with the poverty level of the household served by participating schools. Changes to a student population could indicate a change in the poverty level of the household served by the school and may require an ISP to be recalculated within a 4-year cycle, depending on the extent of the change and the entity involved. Refer to community eligibility provisions, guidance, and updated questions and answers for more information. Right. So new schools and CEP. So newly open schools and or schools new to the NSLP SBP program should contact the state agency to discuss if they are able to participate in CEP. These are handled on a case-by-case basis. Please note that the deadlines for elections is June 30th for all schools. Opting out of CEP. SFAs or schools may elect to stop CEP at any time by notifying LDOE of the decision, notifying households of the decision, allowing ample time for submission of free and reduced applications. SFAs must offer all students reimbursable free meals for a period of at least 30 operating days following the date of restoration of standard procedures or until a new eligibility determination is made, whichever comes first. The end of CEP cycle or grace year. So what if the school food authority does not have an identified student percentage of 25% or higher in year 4 of the current cycle? In this situation, the SFA may be eligible to stay on the option for an additional year, which is a grace period. In order to be eligible for this grace year, the identified student percentage in year 4 of the last cycle must be between 15 and 25%. Therefore, if a system cluster in year 4 has an ISP of 19%, they could continue a grace year at 30.4% free claiming and 69.6% paid claiming. Note, non-federal funds are necessary if the total amount of federal reimbursement through CEP does not fully cover the cost of serving all student meals at no charge. All right. So carryover eligibility. The first 30 operating days or until a new eligibility can be determined when transitioning from a CEP school to a non-CEP school between school years or transferring between a CEP school to a non-CEP school. So the transfer of eligibility, so that carryover, it refers to the child's eligibility from the previous school year being carried over into the current or new school year. So this is the grace period when moving from non-CEP to CEP schools or CEP to non-CEP schools. So when you go from non-CEP to CEP, that child will receive free meals as they are part of that student body now. For CEP to non-CEP, must provide free meals for up to 10 operating days or until a new eligibility determination is made through a income form. Meal charge policy, just a reminder, if all schools in a school food authority operate a non-pricing provision, CEP, the SFA is not required to develop a meal charge policy as no children will be charged for meals. But if any school or schools in an SFA operate standard counting and claiming, the SFA must develop a meal charge policy. Verification. CEP schools will not complete the verification process, but will complete the verification summary form. And we'll go into this in more detail in our verification training. Okay, income surveys. So alternative procedures must be used to determine economic status of individual students since CEP schools are not allowed to collect free and reduced lunch applications. School systems without meal applications may not be capturing kids that are economically disadvantaged based on income eligibility for free or reduced meals. School systems can implement an income eligibility survey to identify students who are eligible for free/reduced lunch with the goal of accurately identifying these students for economically disadvantaged. Note, alternate household income surveys are not school meal applications, and the costs associated with collecting those household income information in CEP schools may not be charged to the nonprofit school food service account. Students identified as economically disadvantaged on income surveys are not considered identified students for CEP. So, record keeping requirements. CEP schools are subject to the same basic reporting and record keeping requirements as schools conducting normal counting and claiming or operating under special provisions. The state agency does assess the accuracy of a local education agency's ISPs. In Louisiana, as part of the administrative review, the state agency will locate 10% or a statistically valid sample of identified students' names on appropriate source documentation. Therefore, the food authority must, at a minimum, as part of the administrative review records, maintain the following ISP data for local education agencies and schools participating in CEP. A list of all the identified students with their ISP classification used to determine the ISP from all schools participating in CEP from each district, documentation for the total enrollment at all CEP schools, the sample list of students that the state agency used to verify the initial ISP, and the ISP worksheet the local education agencies used to calculate the ISPs and submitted to state agencies with appropriate documentation. In addition, this documentation must be retained for 3 years after submission of the final claim for reimbursement under that claiming percentage. All right. So office hours. So whenever we did population, we had a really successful office hour. So we decided to implement those every Thursday in June to be available to answer your questions. So the training was rescheduled today, May 30th. And we'll be offering these office hours via Zoom Thursday, June 6th, June 13th, June 20th, June 27th, all at 1 p.m. And you will be able to click on this link. This was also shared in a memo. So in summary, all CEP elections must be completed on the LDOE CNP website. CEP elections will begin on June 3rd, 2024, as June 1st is a Saturday. All CEP elections must be made by June 30th, 2024. So any questions, you can contact the LDOE Division of Nutrition Support at childnutritionprograms@la.gov or at our phone number 225-342-9661. Or you can also reach out to me directly or include me on the email as I will be your main point of contact for this CEP election period. Okay, thank you. Okay, so Misty, did you have any questions that you wanted to address?
If anyone has any questions, they can put them in the chat box. Just as a reminder, make sure that everybody's aware, June 30th falls on a weekend, falls on a Sunday. So please make sure before you leave work on that Friday that you do your elections, because if you come to work on Monday, you will not be able to submit at that point. But there's two questions in the chat and both have been answered. Also want to clarify, because I just saw a chat coming through the chat box, a question. So see, there's nothing more you need to do in eScholar. So I just want to make that very clear. There is nothing more this time you need to do in eScholar. You just need to go to the CEP participation tab on the CNP website, and that's where you will make your elections. So that's all we need to do at this time. You do not need to worry about going back into eScholar to do anything.
This PowerPoint will be posted along with a recording of the training on Louisiana Fit Kids. Today's training was focusing on CEP elections. Sunbucks and summer EBT will be addressed at our monthly call. Misty, what is the date of the monthly call?
It will be on Tuesday, June 4th, so next week on Tuesday.
All right. So the CEP elections tab, the 2025 CEP elections will be available on Monday, June 3rd. All right. So individual questions about your SFA, please send an email so we can talk about your specific scenario. Okay. Well, thank you all for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.